Source-based essay writer's checklist. Directions for activity. With your sample response and the source-based prompt at hand, go through this checklist as you read the questions in the list below. Each area leaves you space to write your thoughts down about how well you did on your essay. I want you to choose at least 3 areas you think you need to refine and record specific examples of how you plan to fix these items to make your essay more effective. Mark an X or a check mark over the option that best describes your essay. Record your reasons in the areas provided. So I want you to go ahead and visit the course downloads and pull out the essay writer's checklist. There's an argumentative one and there's a source-based one, and the process is the same for both. So I created a little visual just to kind of go over some of the points that we're going to be looking for as we grade your essays in the tutoring session and as I go over my exemplar. So, the first item is always extremely important, and that is to have a clear thesis statement. You need to provide and sustain a clear focus or thesis is what the ETS says. So that means that your thesis is evident in the first paragraph. It is being supported through the body and it's restated at the end. Remember, the thesis is the roadmap to your essay. The second point, logical organization. This is a couple things when it has to do with your paper, but just remember you need to have, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Having multiple paragraphs is what you need to be able to do so you can show how to organize your writing as an educated adult. You can, choose different types of ways to organize your writing so it makes sense. And the ways that we organize writing, where it's recognized as a pattern would be by subject matter, cause and effect, chronological or time order, etc. Okay, now we're going to move on to smooth transitions. With this one, with item 3, I'm talking about what kinds of transitional words or phrases are you using between your paragraphs and what types of content are contained in your paragraphs to prepare the reader for what's coming up next or what they may have read, in the paragraph before. So just remember, use your transitional words and phrases and, get the reader prepared. Okay. Number 4 in purple over here. All right. Effectively integrates textual evidence from source materials. So this is supposed to be describing your paper. No more than 3 words are in the same order as the original piece of literature without plagiarizing. So that's, a paraphrasing rule I'll give you. And when you are quoting, make sure you do it verbatim. You need to be correct and proper when you are referencing someone else's materials. You also need to use proper citations. So that would mean you could refer to the author within, the sentence itself and then use quotation marks and a parenthetical citation at the end. Or you could, lead in with the text reads, quotation mark, put your quote in that supports, then end with a quotation mark and do a parenthetical citation, saying what the author's last name was or perhaps the page number. So, the title of the article could go in that as well, and then the period does go at the end. So you need to know how to cite, and you need to know how to use 2 pieces of informational text and combine them to create another piece of informational text that explains a specific idea or concern, etc. All right, and over here, my little image that's a little bit overdone, it says use both sources. Avoid overly relying on one source. Part of the task at hand is being able to synthesize and integrate and combine. So just remember to try to keep a nice balance when it comes to the sources and do make connections between the two. Okay, so those are 1 through 4. And over here, I put a 6 on this little thing and wrote pass because we want to get a score of a 6. So that's why we're doing this. We are going through the essay checklist, and we are moving on to number 5. So 5 through 9 are on the end of this note over here. Right. Okay. So number 5 reads sentence variety. So do you have sentence variety? And there are 2 different things involved in this area. 1 is sentence types, and 2 is structure. So, we need to be able to use questions and use exclamation points, change up our punctuation a little bit to create different types of sentences like declarative sentences or, interrogative sentences and things like that. When it comes to structure, the way that your paper sounds as far as its sophistication level, its tone, what message you are trying to convey, it all has to do a little bit with how well you know how to put your sentences together. And a lot of that, depends on your abilities with creating different types of sentences. So short sentences, long sentences, sentences with, different types of, dependent and independent clauses, sentences that are not run-on sentences, sentences that ask rhetorical questions, things like this. So remember, you need to use a sentence variety that shows that you have a firm grasp on how a paper or an essay sounds best. Okay, and that is if you use a variety of techniques within your essay. So number 6, I believe, is really important. And it says effective word choice or diction. And we all know that, diction is extremely important when it comes to writing because our word choice really shows, how much we understand the material, B, how well we know how to express ourselves, and C, how articulate we are. The best word choices are the ones that are the most clear and specific. So you just need to be thinking about, not being, vague, be specific, be descriptive, use figurative language, use literary devices, use words in ways that you are going to accomplish your task of conveying the message in your essay. 7 says ELS, English Language Structure. So this has to do with how well you use grammar, and rhetoric and writing techniques to complete the task at hand. And the task for us is to be able to show, a group of educated adults that are reading this paper that you do indeed know how to use your words to prove a point, to provide support, to make connections, and to write something that someone can, get meaning from, and also, something that is intriguing to the reader. So, like I was talking about before, using rhetorical questions, spicing it up a little bit, making it so your paper isn't boring, but you're still being formal and following all the other rules that are in this checklist. But tone is definitely something that you have to keep formal, but you can also be witty. That's great. So use your skills and make sure that you are still focused on the thesis all the way through your effective piece of paper. Your effective piece of paper, or computer screen, your effective essay. Okay, now we are on proper syntax usage. All right. So this word syntax It means, it's kind of a big word, even though, it's just 2 syllables. Syntax errors cover a very wide umbrella of errors in our writing. So this is, not limited to misplaced modifiers, subject-verb agreement issues, incorrect sentence, structures that maybe your sentence lacks a subject or an object. Every time you break a rule, you are making a syntax error. So that's in punctuation. That is also, how you place words in a sentence according to the part of speech that it is. And it also includes capitalization errors. So diction, word choice that we just spoke about in number 6 is a little bit more loosey-goosey. You have a little bit more leeway to be creative when it comes to your use of diction in your essay. However, syntax is syntax. Rules are rules. So you need to know how to write in standardized English language format. So you got to be able to recognize, okay, I know that proper nouns are capitalized, or I know that I must use an apostrophe, for it is in ITS, and if it's a possessive it doesn't get an apostrophe. Those are things you are expected to know, and you need to review your English language skills before you take this test. And if you have any time at the end, go back and edit. So we are on to 9, and that is tone. All right. And tone is the author's attitude towards the subject. So with this essay, because the reader, the person that is grading your paper, who is going to say that you pass or you fail on this essay, they are an educated adult and they expect a formal paper. All right. So keeping your tone formal is a very good rule of thumb to follow. And you need to remain consistent. All right. And you need to always consider your audience. So if they do give you some type of prompt that is speaking to a certain audience, your tone can also express some type of attitude you have towards that. If it's about, school uniforms, perhaps, or, free lunches, they're going to give you some type of topic that has to do with, working in schools or issues that are relevant to students or teachers that are working in schools. So, keeping that in mind, formal tone, and, remember your audience. So say, you are writing a letter to the school board president. You might want to be a little bit more cordial or, very, very formal and, give salutations, all those types of things. On this paper, you're going to be asked to write not to a specific person. So you have to find ways to keep your tone formal from the top to the bottom, and it needs to contain some type of parallelism so, that the whole paper is connected and that it flows and that it's the best paper that you can possibly write. So you can pass this thing. And I promise if you go through your essay with the checklist and you find, all of these 9 things and they're present, you're going to be in a really good position to pass. And you always can find something that might need a little bit of work, like say your thesis needs cleaned up at the end. Awesome. All right. I still want you to find 3 areas that you can improve, even if they are present in your paper. So now we're going to move on to the exemplar essay.